So my favorite way to spend my Sunday afternoon is talking about really pretentious philosophers who are not disabled, talking about disabled young women, and apparently only women and never men, and claiming that they are making up being disabled in their heads, and complaining about the use of canes. So Kathleen Stock, a British philosopher and writer, published a very pretentious essay on the Sunday Times, and it is titled, "Why Are Young Women Using Walking Sticks? A disproportionate number of Gen Z females are affected by vague syndromes and may be victims of social contagion." Basically, the gist of this is that Kathleen Stock thinks that young girls, again, not men, just young girls, are making up their illnesses and making up their conditions, their disabilities, because influencers on TikTok. Sometimes you see groups of them, each leaning on a walking stick as they edge gingerly along. Startlingly fresh-faced users have been visible at pride parades for a while, and there are growing numbers on university campuses. The message sent to onlookers is about a life spent in pain, though what kind of pain exactly remains unclear. Well, we are happy to tell you what kind of pain that is. All you have to do is ask at the appropriate time. Don't just run up to us and start asking why we're using a cane. We will talk about it. We like to spread awareness about this stuff. TikTok has hundreds of videos on the subject: how to match your cane to your outfit, how to dance with the cane, how mobility aids can still look hot, and the trend is not just for walking aids. Okay, what is that last sentence? What else are we talking about? Okay, yeah, people talk about this stuff in general, about other things, about how to match outfits to something. Okay, what was the point of that sentence? And it's funny how she says this, because I can probably imagine who specifically she's talking about when she says matching your stick to your outfit, how to dance with a cane, etc. I cannot confirm nor deny, but I can assume. And then she does throw in a little bit about ambulatory wheelchair using in this. This week, a video went viral of a young woman in a wheelchair at a train station filming the laborious attempts of staff to get her chair up some stairs after the lift failed. Towards the end of the video, somewhat unexpectedly, she gets out of her chair and walks upstairs herself, saying she had a bit of energy that day, so could do it. In another video, she films herself putting on roller skates before pushing off from her wheelchair and skating happily away. I know why this says somewhat unexpectedly, because everybody always is like, why is this person suddenly getting out of their chair and walking? Clearly, they are not disabled, which obviously is not always the case. Being an ambulatory wheelchair and cane user is a thing, and considering how there are so many places that are still inaccessible, especially subway stations, trains are going out, elevators are always going out, and so they have to go up the stairs. And so when someone says they had a bit of energy that day so they can do it, a lot of times these moments are because if they are going somewhere, they saved up enough energy, they saved up enough spoons to be able to do that thing. Sometimes it's just simply there is no choice in the matter. I mean, if your only choice is the stairs now because the elevator stopped working, then what are you going to do? Just sit there? Okay, some people do, but if you really need to go where you're going, you really want to get to where you wanted to go, you're going to attempt to do something. I live on the highest floor of my apartment building. 3 days total in this year so far, I think, the elevator has gone out. Some for only a couple of hours, some for more than a day. And I could either stay in the lobby, which would not be very wise, or I could go up the 6 flights of stairs because the only elevator is out. What do you want me to do? I'm not going to go drive somewhere and stay over there when that would mean I would need to bring things with me for the night. And trust me, I am absolutely spent and tired by the time that I get up to my apartment after climbing those 6 flights of stairs. And very dizzy. Even severely debilitating physical conditions produce good days as well as bad. That is very true. On some bad days, a person may need extra help. Yes. But when a disproportionate number of young women are insisting this applies, we need to find out what is going on. Why do Gen Z females, apparently unlike every generation before them, have strangely unstable bodies that intermittently require support? Okay, so in 2020, we had this very large pandemic where cases are still rising again, in the summer of 2026, but that killed a lot of people and it disabled a lot of people. So that is why you are also seeing a larger number of cases suddenly pop up out of the woodwork. Also, we are in a generation where we are learning from previous generations that you are talking about, Gen X, the boomer generations, where, you know, a lot of this, back in the day, we did XYZ, and so why is everyone so soft now? Also, way back when, the ugly laws exist. So, when the ugly laws existed, disabled people were not supposed to be roaming about. Nobody wanted to see disabled people. So, disabled people had to be, like, shoved in the hole, and if they were out and about, like, maybe they were not, you know, so obviously disabled. I mean, if you were to look at me, you wouldn't really know. So I could be out and about, but I would have to be very, very careful being out and about. A lot of people are just being secret and quiet about being disabled. A lot of people now are like, oh my God, why are people suddenly autistic and with ADHD so much? Back then, lack of information, lack of resources, stigma. Now there is less of that. Now we are learning from previous generations. We don't want to be like previous generations. We want to be more outspoken about these things, because being quiet and silent about it does not help, and in fact can and does make things worse, makes things more painful. So we want to talk about it. We want to get answers, because you are also, like you are saying in this article, we need to find out what is going on. That is very true. We need to find out what's going on. That's why people are going to the doctor and on the internet and talking about their life and their symptoms and things like that. This article continues on, and a lot of it just sounds more and more pretentious as it goes on. A lot of it saying that all these fancy words are suddenly coming about and symptoms that are similar to what everybody gets every once in a while, but the difference is non-disabled people are getting these symptoms like dizziness and a racing heart, exhaustion, pain, blah blah blah, because they are doing something that they don't normally do that will make them have these symptoms. So if they're exhausted, it's because they're probably running a damn 5K. Muscle pain, because they're probably lifting something that they maybe should not be. Dizziness, it's summer. People are getting dizzy because it's so hot. For me, if I'm getting brain fog and muscle pain and whatever, arthritis. I got diagnosed with arthritis a couple of years ago. Fibromyalgia, I'm trying to figure out if I have. My doctor that I really didn't care for said it's probably not that. I need to find another doctor and see what it could be, or if it is just the arthritis. Brain fog. Oh, I know that's a lot of trauma that's been in my head. A lot of trauma from growing up and the stress and everything else. I and other disabled people, we get these things for simply just existing and not because we are out doing something. And sometimes it is because we are out doing something. Could it be then that some are taking a cue from internet influencers, over-analyzing normal experiences and talking themselves into a disabled state? If true, it would hardly be the first time that young women were in the grip of social contagion. So we cannot deny that, I forget the actual name of this, but there is a condition where people do think that they are genuinely disabled, or they want to be disabled, so they will do things like get a limb taken out and things like that because they truly believe that they are in a disabled state. I don't think that this is something like what they are talking about right now is what that is. Again, with a pandemic that is disabling a lot of people, that has and is still killing people, and our healthcare system being worse and worse considering the current administration and the guy that we have that's the head of all this right now. Yeah, healthcare getting worse and worse just means that bodies are going to get worse and worse, and health is going to get worse and worse, and is getting worse and worse. Take a shot for every time I said that. Don't. So it is no surprise that you're going to be seeing a lot of it, because things are happening that is making that happen. But also, again, because now we're in a generation that is tired of this forced growing up and suppressing emotions and not talking about when something is happening and when something is wrong. I'm not suddenly waking up and wanting to be in a chronic pain state and wanting to be chronically ill, but that's what's happening, and so I'm going to talk about it so that others do not feel alone. No, not every single piece of a symptom is going to be, oh my God, this person is disabled. But listen, if somebody at the end of the day, we're ignoring all this, if somebody at the end of the day just wants to have a damn a cane with glitter on it that is blue or pink or purple or whatever, if they want to have that, what is it hurting you? If somebody is in pain and they want that damn cane, they need that damn wheelchair, why do you have such a problem? And keep in mind, ma'am, how old are you? Okay, she's only 54, but like I said, or like I might have said, either in this version of the video or in the other one, disability comes at any age. It doesn't matter. So honestly, at some point, you're probably going to be getting a cane yourself anyways. And again, I know this is supposed to be about young women, whatever, and still not young men for whatever reason. There's this post on Facebook. If you don't follow me on my public Facebook page, you should consider doing so. It's from Rachel Boyce, and they've shared some of the screenshots. Disability has never been rare, and accessibility has always functioned as segregation, keeping the disabled separate and hidden from the non-disabled. This, combined with internalized ableism, perpetuates the lie that disability is rare and that the disabled are a smaller fraction of the population than we actually are. The disability percentage is not small. I mean, compared to the non-disabled world at large, obviously there are more non-disabled people than disabled people. We're not a unicorn. It's not such a small number in percentage. There's another post from Rachel. Disability has never been rare and dynamic disabilities have always been common. Ableism is the only reason why anyone has ever thought that disability is rare. Whenever a society becomes more accepting of a marginalized group, fascists and bigots will always say that its increased presence is a social contagion rather than people feeling safe enough to be honest about who they are and or what they need. Sincerely, a gal with cerebral palsy who gets called fake for existing stylishly in public. That last part is very, very true. I have friends who are disabled and they get comments saying they can't possibly be disabled because they've got their hair curled or straightened and nice, they got makeup on, they got a better outfit. Basically, they look better than what I am looking like right now for this video. And because if they're putting in that much effort, then clearly they are not disabled. I see these comments a lot, my public feed especially, because I follow Alice something. I think she's a wheelchair user. I think she's got like vivid hair, or she's at least very vivid everywhere else, very colorful. And so a lot of people are like, how are you disabled or whatever because you can do X, Y, Z. And I just don't see why we had to make such a pretentious essay. Honestly, this entire essay is so, I mean, you can tell that somebody who took philosophy in college is writing this. Somebody who took philosophy and creative writing in college is right. I don't know what she took. I don't know what actual courses she took besides obviously psychology, because you definitely needed to take that. Yeah, she read French and philosophy at a college in Oxford. This one sentence in particular, to point this possibility out, tends to produce anger in those affected or those that care for them, arguing that certain kinds of disability are socially created, particularly in females, looks at odds with the dictum that young women with chronic illnesses tend to be disbelieved by doctors, and that is a very bad thing. Yes, women with chronic illnesses, women in general, but especially disabled women, do tend to be disbelieved by doctors, and that is indeed a very bad thing. I don't like this idea that disabilities or certain kinds of disabilities are socially created. Again, we're coming out of the trenches of the ugly laws. Like, this wasn't that long ago. People are now wanting to believe that they should be out existing, and they should be. And we are finally confident enough to be able to talk about this stuff, or even if we're not necessarily confident about it, we know how important it is to talk about it. Otherwise, if we go back to the ugly laws era, then we're going to be back to square one all over again. When talking about trends across huge populations, though, both things can't be true, and they might be connected. In the socially constructed case, we are still talking about illnesses rather than deliberate feigning. It's just a source of illness, in part a story the sufferer has unconsciously learnt. And this is very good news, for unlike biologically fixed disorders, stories can be changed for the better, and happier endings produce for the sufferers concerned. I mean, yes, if you have a symptom that is probably just a one-off and isn't a chronic illness, a disability, a lifelong disability, great, but and sometimes that is the case, but I still don't like that it's, every single time. Basically, Kathleen is saying, okay, that's not what this actually is. You're making it up. Rather than it being cruel to say this, in fact, it is cruel not to. I don't think you need to be saying it. I don't think this essay needs to exist. Partially because this isn't new. People won't stop saying this. Like, it's not like people who are in a lot of pain are waking up one day and being like, I really want to be in pain. Being disabled is expensive. It comes with a very large disability tax. Accommodations, accessibility aids are very expensive. Trying to find accessible housing, expensive. Trying to find answers to your disabilities and your illnesses and stuff is extremely expensive. Barriers are a great pain in our butt. So this is not like a fun story time or a fun activity, and that's what Kathleen seems to be making this out to be, and that people just want to do this. And again, yeah, there are people who genuinely believe that they are disabled or whatever, but that is not this. We owe it to potentially able-bodied young people to challenge their tendencies to neuroticism and fear, to get them out into the world as functioning adults whenever or wherever that is possible, because disabled people can't be functioning adults. I'm a functioning adult. Mostly. For their sake, we need to help them ditch the props and quite literally to stand on their own 2 feet. Well, Kathleen, you might want to go to the eye doctor, because if you're talking about people with canes, they are quite literally standing on their own 2 feet. Or 1 foot. I don't know. Sometimes people are using canes with only 1 foot. Maybe 2 if one's a prosthetic. Listen, I don't like the ditch the props. I don't like calling accessibility aids a prop. They are things and they are tools, but obviously she's saying props like, you're just wearing that, you're just using that because you want attention. And then that's pretty much the end of this. There are no comments. Not only do I dislike how pretentious and annoying and stuck up this article is, I also feel like it's very unfinished. You need another editor for this, maybe. Anyways, I am definitely not a Kathleen Stock fan. I think she needs to leave disabled people alone. I think you need to leave young women who are disabled alone. Maybe you could talk about disabled men. You know what? If you want to make another piece about disabled men, because why are we only talking about disabled women? Because there are newly disabled men out there too. I would also say non-binary, but she's a transphobe, so that's definitely not going to happen. But why aren't we talking about disabled men in this too? Because not only is this a very ableist take, this is also a very misogynistic take, and I don't like it. Anyhow, that's my take on this. I wish I had my prop here to like use as a prop in the video, but actually I might have some in the car, but I don't want to walk outside. That would require putting on pants, and I don't want to do that. Not a Kathleen Stock fan. Don't recommend being a Kathleen Stock fan. This is the only time that I've heard of her, and I don't appreciate this type of attitude. I mean, if you want to talk about being concerned that potentially women, young girls, might be thinking too much and being a sort of hypochondriac, maybe don't make such an essay like this that basically talks down to these girls, because that's exactly what this sounds like. I don't like it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. You can leave your thoughts down below in the comments. And I appreciate you being here. Be sure to subscribe if you have not yet. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. See you later.